I've spent countless hours gaming on the Steam Deck, and it has really won my heart in gaming. From amazing stories, to amazing visuals, to amazing gameplay elements. It has been really fun playing those games on the road. So today, I'll be sharing the top 20 verified games to play on the Steam Deck in 2025. Let's check it out. So number 20 is Valheim. Valheim is a beautiful open world survival RPG game where you get to build, fight, conquer different enemies, and it is set in a Viking vibed island where you also get to gather different resources such as, farming, such as hunting, such as going mining to do all it takes to get the proper resources in order to build your land. What I love about Valheim is that, you can take your time to build your land while at the same time it also blends in where you get to fight those different enemies and also be able to marvel at this beautiful fantasy world. I mean, this is just something that is just really nice. And if you have a really massive brain and where you are very good at imagining things, you have a big sense of imagination, Valheim is just perfect because a lot of people that play Valheim, they just get addicted in building their land and where they can easily spend 100, 1,000, or hell, even 10,000 hours to play Valheim in order to enjoy and just get submerged in the Viking world. So yeah, if you love these type of building games as well as you love these type of open world games where you get to do things in a very non-linear format and where it is very timeless and your possibilities are endless, definitely check out Valheim on the Steam Deck. Now up next is Hades. Hades is a roguelike dungeon crawler game where you play as Zagreus, who is the son of, Hades. Since Hades is a very unforgiving father and Zagreus is tired of his father, he decides that he wants to escape the underworld. So you as Zagreus, you have to do all it takes to escape the underworld in order to get to the mortal world in order to reside with your mother. What I really love about Hades is the hack and slash element. I love just going in there and fighting various hordes of enemies, as well as what I really love about Hades is also the different interesting boss fights that you got to do in order to progress in the underworld. So that is something that is also very interesting and very engaging, as well as really love the soundtrack of Hades. The music just brings about the vibe of the atmosphere of the game and what's going on in the game. So yeah, if you really love a beautiful indie roguelike dungeon crawler game, definitely check out Hades on the Steam Deck. Now up next is Celeste. In this game, you play as Madeline, who has insecurities and where she needs to find security and find healing. And in order to do that, she decides to go on this journey to hike to the peak of Celeste Mountain in order to heal herself. And little did she know, as she hike up Celeste Mountain, as you accompany her, you will get to meet interesting NPCs where they will teach her about life, whether it is for the good or for the bad. And whereas you get to accompany her, you also get to witness her experiencing breakthrough, where she gets to break from her cage of her negative inner self. It is a very emotional game where you get to platform up the mountain and where you also get to learn more about Celeste and just cheer her on in her journey for self-discovery. But also what I love about Celeste is that there are also various secret areas in the game where you get those secret items. So yeah, if you want a game that is really beautiful, as well as it has a beautiful soundtrack and where it could be challenging at times, but also where the characters may potentially motivate you in order to become a better person, definitely check out Celeste on the Steam Deck. Now up next is Bramble the Mountain King. In Bramble the Mountain King, you play as Ollie, who discovers that his sister is missing at night due to his sister wandering out into the woods and not coming back. So you as Ollie, being a great brother, you decide to embark on this journey to hopefully find your sister and at the same time bring her safely back home. Now, as you journey out into the woods by yourself, you manage to find your sister. However, as you and your sister is on on the way back home, your sister gets captured once again by a ferocious, mysterious creature, and so you as Ollie cannot go home just yet, but have to go find your sister and save her from the creature before it is too late. What I really love about Bramble is how there is an awesome narrator. As you progress in the game, there are times where the narrator will just say a interesting dialogue where it sounds as if it is somebody like your mom who is reading a bedtime story to you who is a little kid. It just kind of has this type of aesthetics, and I just feel like that is just really artistic, and where it is just something that is just often overlooked and also really nice. As well as what I really love about Bramble is how, as you go about where you have to go into those different houses to solve these different puzzles, there are also interesting booklets, these optional interesting booklets that you can read where you learn about those different enemies in the game, their backstory, and that is something that I also feel like it brings about this extra spice because it teaches me that potentially hurt people, that even though there were those enemies that are trying to harm Ollie, but at the same time I can sympathize with them, their behavior of why they want to hurt Ollie because they themselves have been hurt in the past. But another thing that I have to really warn you about Bramble is that when you start out the game, it may seem as just a fun, jolly adventure game, but as you go farther into the game, I'm not going to give you any spoilers, but I have to warn you is that it starts getting very dark and very horrific. So that is something to really note for if you are somebody who is very sensitive to horror games. Then Bramble may not be for you. You might get nightmares, just as a heads up, because it could be pretty scary later on in the game. In the beginning not so much, but later on it will be more scary, so you might have to avoid that. But if you are somebody who doesn't mind horror games like I do, definitely check out Bramble the Mountain King, because there is so much to the game and where it speaks to me in many different ways. Another thing that I have to also warn you is that Bramble could be frustrating, because in Bramble the Mountain King there is no health bar. If you get hit by an enemy, you're dead. If you land in some spikes, you're dead. There is no grace as far as being hit, so that is something to really also keep in mind, that it is not easy. But anyways, if those things don't bother you, if you really love these type of games where there is a very big sense of emotion tied behind it, as well as where a game that it can speak to you in many different ways, as well as if you love these type of games where there's a beautiful soundtrack and a beautiful presentation, definitely check out Bramble the Mountain King on the Steam Deck. Now up next is Horizon Zero Dawn. In this game you play as Aloy, who is a young hunter who is living in a world dominated by machines and is on a mission to unveil her past. What I love about Horizon Zero Dawn is that how there is a beautiful world to explore, as well as what I love about it is that you get to fight those different machines, whether it is shooting arrows or just going straight in bare bones with melee combat. As well as what I love about Horizon Zero Dawn is that there are a whole bunch of different side quests that I get to do, where I get to help those around me as Aloy, as well as what I also love is engaging in those different trials, which is basically challenges in other types of games. And what I really love specifically about the trials is that there are a variety of different types of trials, where I believe that Guerrilla Games, they did a very good job in it. There is just a whole bunch of creativity that goes behind the different trials. For instance, there is one specific trial that I remember where you must use the environment to your advantage in order to kill the different machines, to kill a certain amount of machines at a specific time limit, and I find that really interesting. So yeah, if you really love these type of action games where there is a beautiful story as well as a beautiful world to explore and where there are lots to do, as well as just going about hunting and exploring and whatnot, definitely check out Horizon Zero Dawn on the Steam Deck. Now up next is Judgement. In this game, you get to play as Takayuki Yagami, a former lawyer and current detective who is trying to solve the case of a series of murder incidences in Kamurocho, a fictional Tokyo district. There are really cool, interesting, engaging plot twists, various side stories which keep me on my toes, as well as there are really interesting and fun encounters with gangs that I can beat up while roaming around, similar to the various Yakuza games. What's unique about Judgement, however, is the fact about mortal wounds. The thing about mortal wounds, they occur when you get hit by those various enemies where they do various damages to Yagami, your character, and where if you get those mortal wounds, it will permanently decrease your maximum health, in which in order for you to recover your fullest potential of maximum health, you must do two different options. One, either find treatment from an underground doctor, or two, buy medical kits to use in order to restore your maximum health. So that is a gameplay element that I really like, that in which it is really unique. It just brings about this kind of strategy. It brings about this kind of thing in which you gotta be careful about not getting damaged by those tough enemies. It is something that's just really, really important to note. So yeah, if you are a person like me who loves a really engaging thriller story, as well as you love games where the story, the characters and all that speak to you in many different ways, as well as you really love these games where there are a unique type of gameplay style where there is extra spice to it, definitely check out Judgement on the Steam Deck. Now up next is Yakuza 6, The Song of Life. In Yakuza 6, you play as Kazuma Kiryu, who just got out of prison and realizes that his daughter is in a coma due to a hit-and-run collision, leaving her baby son, aka Kiryu's grandson, alive and without the nurture of his mother. So you, as Kiryu, must take full responsibility by caring for your grandson like how a great father ought to treat his son, while discovering the dark secrets and truths tied to your daughter as well as your grandson. On top of that, you will also uncover the secrets of the Hiroshima Yakuza. There are plenty of various side quests that are also impactful to me as well, in which they taught me so much about life. What I love about this game is you get to beat up those various hordes of gangs or low-lifers along the streets of Japan, and what I really love in the process of beating them up is the bring of those different dialogues where the gang members mock the MC, in which I find quite funny at times. Now, as you progress, what I also love about the gameplay style is that you get to upgrade your skills, which makes you stronger and being able to take down much tougher enemies as well. So yeah, if you love these games where there's a whole bunch of action to it, as well as you love these Yakuza games where there is this gang life in Japan, as well as you also love these games that have a touching and beautiful story to it, definitely check out Yakuza 6, The Song of Life on your Steam Deck. Now up next is God of War 2018. God of War 2018 is a fun, action-packed adventure game with an amazing story where you play as Kratos, the iconic God of War franchise figure whose wife Faye passes away, leaving just him and his son Atreus as part of the family. Now, to give one last honor to his wife Faye, Kratos and Atreus goes about on a journey to the highest point of the 9 realms based on Norse mythology to spread the ashes of Faye. Throughout the journey, there are plenty of moments where Kratos taught Atreus how to grow and mature into a man both physically and mentally, such as helping him learn how to hunt as well as learn to control his anger, and those moments are extremely impactful. As for the action side of things, there are plenty of enemies to fight using various weapons such as the Leviathan Axe and later the Blades of Chaos, each having their own strengths and weaknesses. It is just so immersive and so engaging and so fun, as well as so touching. But what I also love about God of War 2018 is that it also incorporates those RPG elements where you get to tinker your gear as well as learn new skills in fighting. So yeah, if you really love these action-packed games with an impactful story and a beautiful world where you get immersed in, definitely check out God of War 2018 on your Steam deck. Now up next is Elden Ring. Elden Ring is a masterpiece, an RPG challenging game with tough enemies, tough bosses, as well as a beautiful world to roam around. What's cool about Elden Ring is that there are a whooping 10 different classes to choose from, which brings about a diverse variety of how you will experience and feel in Elden Ring. So the gameplay possibilities are just pretty much endless, and not to mention there is also a vast open world environment that is also engaging, intriguing, and interesting to explore as well. On top of this, what I also love about Elden Ring is that there are various multiplayer modes. You can choose to do 3-player co-op in which you and 2 other friends just go about this open world to tackle the environment and whatnot, as well as you also get to do those PvP duels. So yeah, if you really love open world games which has tough enemies, tough bosses, as well as there is a amazing world to explore and where the possibilities are endless, definitely check out Elden Ring on your Steam deck. Now up next is Cyberpunk 2077. This game is a first-person action RPG game set in the fictional futuristic city called Night City, where there are tons of danger. What I love about Cyberpunk 2077 is the beautiful world that you get to explore, which is extremely immersive. It just feels as if I'm currently out and about, whether it is on a mission out of civilization or doing business in a city and roaming around. As well as I really love how there is a diverse amount of weapons, skills, and abilities, and on top of that, a diverse of things to do in Cyberpunk 2077. You can hack, you can engage in dialogue options, as well as do many more. So yeah, if you love these action games that are flashy and have interesting characters to engage with, as well as a beautiful landscape and having so much to do, definitely check out Cyberpunk 2077 on your Steam deck. Number 10, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is a 3D platformer shooter adventure game where you get to fight hordes of enemies with a weapon wheel, where you have access to a whole bunch of different guns, different type of ammo, and whatnot, as well as you also get to go around the different worlds to collect those various bots, and you get to also explore in this cartoon-like world where there's also 2 different types of dimensions. What I really love about Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is also how there are amazing bosses that are really interesting to engage and fight with, as well as there are also puzzles where you get to solve that keeps your brain working to try to figure out how to progress in the game, as well as also these different side quests that are also very quirky and fun. Now for me, I really love Ratchet & Clank. I was somebody who grew up with the franchise, and although I love the older Ratchet & Clank games better, but I believe that Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is still a great game to enjoy and dive into the world of imagination. So yeah, if you really love Ratchet & Clank games, as well as you also love these games where there is a blending of, third-person shooter, as well as platforming and adventure and action and whatnot, if you love these games that have a mixture that it just blends in very well with these separate genres, definitely check out Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart on the Steam deck. Now number 9 is SiFu. SiFu is a kung fu beat 'em up game where you play as a child of a martial arts master. Now unfortunately, the martial arts master dies because he is being killed, so you as the child must do all it takes to avenge your father who has been killed. Now you play in the game, you are playing as a lone ranger. There's nobody that's going to be helping you with the mission. You're going to be doing it yourself, and you get to choose between you want to play as a boy or play as a girl as you fight off those different enemies like a kung fu enthusiast. Now as far as fighting off the different enemies, you can fight them off like how you do as somebody who is really good at kung fu and the arts and all that, but you also can use your environment to your advantage. Like for example, there are various objects around that you can grab and also use that to fight the different hordes of enemies that you encounter. Now what I really love about SiFu, what I believe is unique about this game, is the process process of dying. So when you die in SiFu, you will be resurrected and you will become stronger, but unfortunately, you will be older and have less health. So if you are somebody who dies too many times, it may come to a point where you will not be able to be resurrected due to your health bar being depleted to a certain amount and you are being too old and stuff. So that is also something to keep in mind with SiFu, is that if you are somebody who is not that great at reflexes and you have a horrible time with playing those games that is action-packed with a whole bunch of hordes of enemies coming at you all the time, SiFu probably is not for you. But if you're somebody who loves these type of action-filled games where there is a whole bunch of enemies to fight, as well as it gets your adrenaline high, as well as you also love games where there is this feel for the Asian types of vibes, definitely check out SiFu on the Steam Deck. Number 8, Doom Eternal. Doom Eternal, this is a first-person shooter game where you play as the Doom Slayer in a futuristic world overrun by demons. What I love about this game is that you get to brutally engage in chaotic fights, as well as you use that to acquire health, ammo, and armor. It is a game in which it is really important in this gameplay aspect, as well as what I love about Doom is that you get to use different types of guns. You can use the ballista, you can use the heavy cannon, to just name a few, as well as there's also these melee weapons like the Doom Blade, the Crucible, all these different cool weapons that you get to use to your own advantage. So yeah, if you really love these type of first-person shooters where there is a beautiful world where you get to fight those different hordes of enemies and where you gotta be on your toes at every moment and there are always enemies where it is just so chaotic and whatnot, definitely check out Doom Eternal on the Steam Deck. Now up next is Spider-Man 2018. Spider-Man 2018, you get to play as Peter Parker, who has to balance his personal life with things that matter the most to him, as well as defending New York City from a deadly virus. What I really love about Spider-Man 2018 is that you get to fight hordes of enemies in this open world action adventure in Manhattan, New York, as well as what I really love about Spider-Man 2018 is the iconic antagonists that they brought from the various movies as well as TV shows. That is something that I feel like is really cool, that I get to play as a character to fight off those different antagonists and beat them. It's just really fun, as well as what I really love about Spider-Man 2018, since this is a open world action game, is that I also love to roam around, engage in those various side quests as you go about and help those people in town. It just brings about the vibe of the city and whatnot, as well as also love the different main quests, the different side activities where you go about and doing those different challenges, such as doing the bomb challenge, combat challenge, to name a few, as well as going to those warehouses and fight those different waves of enemies. It's just a game in which it is just so fun and so vibrant and whatnot, as well as also love to just swing around in the city, just marveling at the amazing landscape of Manhattan. If you are somebody who loves open world games and you love action games where there is so many things to do in the game, as well as you also be able to experience an awesome story, definitely check out Spider-Man 2018 on the Steam Deck. Now up next is Lost Judgement. Lost Judgement, in this game you play as Takayuki Yagami, an ex-lawyer who is now a detective and who has to investigate a bully/suicide case that is primarily based in a high school. Now what I love about Lost Judgement is that there are plenty of unexpected plot twists, as well as a very thrilling adventure that you get to embark in. I also love where you get to go around those Japanese streets while beating up various thugs, as well as what I also love is that there are plenty of side things to do, most notably the side quests as well as school stories. In Lost Judgement, when you embark on those different side quests, there are many, not all the side quests, but many of the side quests, they will not open up unless you access an app on your phone where you navigate and track down something before the side quest is being able to access. So that is something that I find is really cool, because it really shows the life of how a detective ought to operate a detective a lot of times has to find different cues in order to solve different mysteries. Now, the side quests, they also have different stories that are really, really touching. It just brings a lot of different valuable lessons that really teach me in different ways and speaks to me in different ways. As well as I also love going in with the school stories, because Yagami, in case you don't know, he is somebody that is about 40 years old, and as those different high school kids, it may be hard for him to relate to the high school kids because people in the Gen X generation and the Gen Zs, they are much different as far as technology goes, as far as lifestyle goes. So what I really love about this game with Yagami, as far as the school story goes, is that he really am submerging his life to understand the people that are younger, the younger people, also teaching him different ways of living, and him also motivating the kids to also become a better person, to mature better in life, because he has obviously been living life much longer than them. So that is something that I also find really precious in the school stories, is that I'm somebody who may be in their early 30s, but at the same time I can learn from people that are much younger, but I also can be somebody who learn from people that are much older. There are always these type of value that various generations bring. One thing I don't like about Lost Judgment is that they took away some features from the previous game Judgment. I mean, one notable thing that I loved about Judgment was where there is this health bar where if Yagami gets wounded to a certain point, it will deplete his maximum health and he needs to go find a cure by an underground doctor, or just heal it by finding specific aid kits and stuff. I won't give you any spoilers. All I'm gonna say is that is something that I really loved in the first game, and I am just really disappointed that it didn't include that in the second game. But anyways, if you are somebody who loves those Yakuza games and you love going around fighting up these different thugs, you like these type of action type of games, as well as you love games that speak to you in many different ways, definitely check out Lost Judgment on the Steam Deck. Now up next is Ryse, Son of Rome. In this game, you play as Marius Titus, who is a person who just got trained to become a Roman soldier, and where in between him finishing his training and him getting deployed to Alexandria, he pays his family a visit, but unfortunately in the process of the visit, barbarians invade the streets and unfortunately kills his family, his mom, his dad, as well as unfortunately his sister. So you as Marius decides to go on this mission to go fight to avenge your family. What I really love about Ryse, Son of Rome is how there are a lot of enemies to fight in hack and slash fashion, where you just go in and chaotically engage in the enemy fights and whatnot. What I also love about this game is how brutal the game is, where you get to engage in execution sequences, as well as you get to use various weapons, either the weapon own as well as the weapons in the environment from time to time, to engage in different fights to your advantage. There's just something about this game in which, as I go about as Marius Titus fighting off those different enemies, it feels not repetitive, unlike some hack and slash games. In this game, as I go about fighting, it really feels like as if I am just going in there because of how much I hate those enemies killing my family. It's just something that I feel just really special compared to other hack and slash games where some of them just feels very repetitive, but this one just feels very emotional in my opinion. So yeah. And then on top of Ryse, Son of Rome, the campaign, there's also gladiator mode where you can play either by yourself or with one friend, where you get to fight off various waves of enemies and whatnot. And that is something that I feel, even though that is not the major seller point for Ryse, Son of Rome, the major seller point for Ryse, Son of Rome is obviously the campaign in my opinion, but I am really glad that they included gladiator mode, because sometimes I might want to play some games with some friends where I can easily pick up and drop, and this I believe is one of those things that I can play with a friend cooperatively and where I can easily pick it up and drop whenever. But anyways, if you are somebody who loves hack and slash games and you also love these games where there is an emotional story to it and where you really feel for the character, definitely check out Ryse, Son of Rome on the Steam Deck. Now up next, Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor. This game is set between the events of Peter Jackson's The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings trilogy. In Shadow of Mordor, you play as Talion, a ranger and captain of Gondor who, along with his family, is captured by the Sauron Uruks and sacrificed by the Black Hand to summon the wraith of the Elk Lord Celebrimbor. However, Celebrimbor suffers amnesia due to being a wraith and merges with Talion, in which it resurrects Talion and tags along with Talion to go on the mission to seek vengeance against Sauron. What I love about Shadow of Mordor is how you get to fight those different enemies, as well as there is a beautiful place to just explore that is heavily engaging if you're somebody who loves Lord of the Rings and loves The Hobbit, as well as there are also different side quests that really enhance the story, as well as a beautiful soundtrack that wraps everything that I mentioned together. But what I really am glad about Shadow of Mordor, what I really think really stands out compared to other beautiful open world games, is the Nemesis system. In Shadow of Mordor, you get to track down different Uruks, and where you get to defeat those different captains, and where if you defeat those different captains, it will cause the captain's goons to be weakened. However, if you get killed by the captains, then it will cause the Uruks to level up. So it is something in which you gotta prep, you gotta strategize before you take on a captain, because if you keep dying, it may come to a point where the game will be very much unplayable because the enemies get so high level and you are completely under leveled and you cannot play the game anymore, and unfortunately you have to start over. So that is something that you do not want to do. But anyways, if you are somebody who loves open world games that you get to explore and where you get to marvel at the beauty of it, while you also get to fight those different enemies, and where there are plenty of skills and weapons in which you can choose from, there are also these different movesets that you get to learn and whatnot along the way, definitely check out Shadow of Mordor on the Steam Deck. Now up next, Ori and the Blind Forest. In this game, you play as Ori, who is a spirit guardian who's on this mission to restore the 3 elements of light in order to prevent the forest from staying in decay and restoring the forest back to life. What I really love about Ori and the Blind Forest is just how beautiful this platformer Metroidvania game is. Going around in the game, you get to see vast forest that is just so crisp, as well as you also get to fight those different enemies along the way while trying to avoid danger, and also be able to find different secret areas that you go about as if it was any other type of platformer game. Now, another thing that I love about Ori and the Blind Forest is how there is also an amazing soundtrack. The music in the game, every single one of them, all bring to life the story of the game as you go about and progress, and also brings about this relaxing feel for whatever you are doing in life. There are plenty of times when I am driving down the road and when I'm with a friend and the friend is not in a good mood or is just really tired, the person will ask me, "Hey, can you please play some Ori music, Joe? Can you please play some music from Ori and the Blind Forest, Joe?" And that is something that I will turn to, and the people in the car will just feel so refreshed. I'm also really touched by the story. There are moments in the story where it just brings me to tears as I learn about love, friendship, and what it means to do all it takes to preserve what matters to you the most. I personally would have put Ori and the Will of the Wisps on this list as well, but unfortunately, Ori and the Blind Forest is the only game that is verified. Ori and the Will of the Wisps, unfortunately, it's only listed as playable. I don't know why. I don't see how Ori and the Will of the Wisps is harder to run on a Steam Deck, but it is what it is. So yeah, if you are somebody who loves games where there is a beautiful world to engage and explore in, as well as there's an amazing soundtrack, and where is a game that perfectly shows that video games are a work of art, definitely check out Ori and the Blind Forest on the Steam Deck. Now up next is Shadow of War. Shadow of War is a direct sequel to Shadow of Mordor, and in this game we see Talion and Celeste head to Mount Doom to create another ring of power that is fresh and clean with no corruption from Sauron whatsoever. However, things turn nasty once the ring was created. Celeste gets captured by Shelob, and Shelob threatens Talion to give her the ring or else she would keep Celeste hostage. Due to her claiming that she and Talion mutually hating an enemy in Sauron, Talion reluctantly hands over the ring, and here's what Shelob has to say as she sees into the future before heading out. I love Shadow of War so much more than Shadow of Mordor. It is just the bigger brother to Shadow of Mordor, with a much bigger world to explore, a much bigger world to roam, as well as different enemies to fight, as well as there are also more side quests, and as well as there's also a bigger and better variety of weapons. That's what I really love about Shadow of War. But what I am impressed mostly about Monolith Productions is buffing the Nemesis system in Shadow of War. What I love about the Nemesis system in Shadow of War is that enemies are able to be dominated. When dominating an enemy, the enemy can be sent to eavesdrop different war chiefs and bring back intel to Talion. As well as what's cool about being dominated is that those enemies, they can continue to be your friend or later on betray you and become a foe depending on how you treat them. Like for example, if during a battle you decide to protect them in the battle, they will continue to be your friend. But if you abandon them, then they will become your foe. So this is a game in which it is just so much more polished than Shadow of Mordor. It really feels as if Shadow of War, the gameplay side of things, is what Shadow of Mordor was meant to be. So yeah, that is something that is just so remarkable. If you are somebody who loves Lord of the Rings and Hobbit, you will love Shadow of War. If you are somebody who just loves open world games and the action side of things, you will love Shadow of War. It is just a game that I believe is just meant for everybody. Definitely check out Shadow of War on the Steam Deck. Alright guys, the moment of truth is here. My favorite verified game on the Steam Deck, and it's none other than Persona 5 Royal. In Persona 5 Royal, you play as a high school protagonist codenamed Joker who is wrongfully accused of special misconduct and sent to Shuten Academy for an entire school year due to probation. At the school, he gets to meet new friends, and suddenly they all witnessed a mysterious app being planted in their phones which give them access to the metaverse, aka the cognitive realm of corrupt adults, where the friends must fight the shadows in there and quote-unquote steal their treasure, which forces a change of heart in which the individual will confess his or her crimes in real life. What I love about this game is that it is a perfect blend between turn-based RPG as well as high school simulation. Because the thing about Persona 5 Royal is that even though a lot of it involves you going in those different dungeons where you fight those different shadows to cause a change of heart in those different corrupt adults, but also a lot of the game involves you being a high school student going to school, studying, as well as taking those different tests where you're able to increase and rank up those different stats. And what I also really love about Persona 5 Royal is to spend time with your friends. It really teaches me and motivates me on how I can be a light to my friends and how I can be somebody who can be a better leader in my circle of influence. Before playing Persona 5 Royal, I know many of you are like me who do not like to look at gameplay and do not like to look at that because you're afraid of getting spoilers. I get it, but for this game, in order to be somebody who wants to experience the maximum amount of fun, you have to look online to see at least which specific characters you have to prioritize in building relationship in. Because if you don't, then you will end up having the same exact ending to the original game that was released back in 2016. So that is just something that is worth noting. But anyways, if you are somebody who loves these JRPG games where there is a whole bunch of fighting, where there is also a whole bunch of great characters as well as an amazing story where it brings about all these different life lessons that will speak to you in many different ways, and you also love games that have amazing soundtracks that bring about extra spice to the vibe of the game, definitely check out Persona 5 Royal on the Steam Deck. Alright friends, these are the top 20 verified games that I will recommend any Steam Deck owner to check out. Let me know in the comment section below, are there any verified games in which you enjoy playing that I did not mention on this list? But yeah, if you love gaming discussions, gaming reviews, gaming lists, and everything related to the Steam Deck, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe so you not miss another video. I try to post Mondays and Fridays around 6 PM Pacific time, so stay tuned. Once again, my name is Joey from the Nomadic Gaming Guild, and game on!